Microphone muted.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sorry we're running late. Uh, we've been taking a lot of inspiration from ESL lately, but we are here. I'm AJS0 with Failed Destiny, Zedkis on the stream tonight to bring you Week 4, aka the start of the second round robin for the Batty Overwatch League. I didn't really leave
Hello.
you anywhere to kind of cut it after that. I just kind of said everything and it was done. I'm sorry. That was bad. I'm not a paid professional, folks.
Neither of us are.
So going at it here, we've got now that every team's played every team once, I think we can kind of talk about the balance of power in the league a little bit more, which I think is a bit more exciting than how it was beforehand. And in this first match here, we've got first seed Sadistic, Autistic, and
Bone Zone.
the Bone Zone.
They are currently third, 8 points behind the April Wizards, who will be obviously playing Game 2 against Mercy Shore.
Yeah, looking at the big picture here, the one thing that really surprises me about the first round robin is that Sadistic Autistic is still in first. That doesn't surprise me. But the fact that they were the only team that didn't blow out Mercy Shore. They had a, I believe, 35-25 win versus them, whereas Mercy Shore's other two games were 60-0 and 50-10. Or maybe 60-10? I think it was 60-0 and 60-10. Not good. And you would think just by virtue of not having those extra, 20, 30 points from a Mercy Shore blowout, that Sadistic Autistic would probably be second or third. But they've played their best two series versus the other two competitive teams. So I'm curious to see if something changes going forward, if,
Yeah, we've got
maybe.
a lot of the season left, as this is just the first round robin getting into playoffs. So still, anything could happen with everyone going into playoffs. More people are getting in practice. We had a long break, and we'll have a longer break when Christmas and New Year's comes up. So the large lead that's currently held doesn't have to necessarily stay large. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, in all things considered, it is very close between the top three teams. I could reasonably see any of those teams taking the top seed.
Yeah, I completely agree. It'll be interesting to see if things change up, especially this first game. If they have, if Bone Zone and Sadistic Autistic, if it is one-sided, Bone Zone could effectively take the lead here.
Try not to get yourselves killed out there.
So, starting off, Bonnie, one of the more interesting maps, a team, if they take the first point, usually travels pretty far up until that last corner or second to last corner, either way. So we'll see what kind of first push comes out of Bone Zone.
Yeah, and everyone's had a little bit of time to kind of research the patch changes by now, so I expect we're going to see slightly more normalized picks, which we see here with two Soldier 76s. We're going to see a lot of that tonight, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And
Soldier right now does so much damage. He's seen a lot of play everywhere.
And there's just a bum rush coming out of Bone Zone, but 30 goes down right away. That's the DPS down. They're getting trapped really far away from their side of the map here. They're
They're behind.
This is the weirdest engage I've ever seen.
Yeah, but it looks really planned. Like, it looks like a very successful push coming out of Bone Zone. UTech goes down, teammate goes down, they're out of healers. Just a lot of damage being traded, some contesting of the point, but the bar hasn't actually moved, and that's almost a complete wipe. Thrifty doing what he can as Soldier up top.
That was good objective discipline out of Sadistic Autistic, which is something that has gotten them to the first seed. They don't have people step off the point for no reason. They never give up a single inch to the Bone Club, who had zero focus fire once they got onto that point. I mean, they were already down, man. They lost 30 early in that push, and they ended up in a position where they had to fully commit to it, and they just weren't able to do anything in the 5v6.
Yeah, as a team, they look very coordinated. When it comes to their damage, focusing targets, they're very unfocused, it seems like. And again, we see a very, well, it looks like a two-pronged attack coming out, and people are just slowly getting picked off on Bone Zone's team. It looks like another successful defense out of Sadistic Autistic.
Yeah, that was a bit more scattered of a fight. The thing that really stood out to me there was, once again, 30 got picked far away from his team early in the fight.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes the Soldier so good is that he puts out sustained high damage for a long period of time. Like, Soldier's not a get in there, blow your load, and die early kind of hero, like an assassin would be with the Legend or something.
Right.
So 30 dying early, especially the star player of this team, really hurting this team. And now they're in a big ult disadvantage going into this fight.
Yeah, still very coordinated, and 30 being ulted,
Oh, there's a good explosion out of Albino Joe. Creates a little bit of pressure, but only gets one kill.
Yeah, the ulted Soldier ended up taking a lot of damage away as Salvo blocked it with D.Va's suppression. But a contested point that's slowly being lost by Bone Zone. Or sorry, Bone Zone taking from Sadistic Autistic.
Yeah,
and they
solid cap there. I was a little wrong when I said they were at a big ult disadvantage going into that. They had multiple people at the high 90s, so it ended up being like 8 or 9 ults total going into that fight. And most importantly, 30 and T-Mic had the Ana Soldier ult combo available, that's the thing right now.
Right.
Put the nano boost on the Soldier, activate COD mode,
and he just auto shoots and kills everyone that's within sight distance as long as nothing's blocking his damage.
Yeah, it's something we haven't talked about. Bone Zone once again running 3 tanks, with 30 being their only DPS. And that's something that, from what I've gathered, has caught on a bit at higher elo and pro play, is the 3 tanks seem to be more of a thing than it was before the patch.
Yeah, the damage dealers right now, there's one specific one, and that's Soldier, and everyone else just isn't doing as much damage by comparison, and the tanks are acting more like bruisers than real meat shields. A lot of really interesting coordination coming out of Bone Zone now. They keep going in one by one at the point and dying, and a pretty successful hold here from Sadistic Autistic.
Yeah, that turned really good once Sadistic kind of zerged onto the point, and now they're sitting in a really good ult position going into this next fight. 4 ults, and now Furio at 87.
Yeah, and Tree's just going to apply damage continuously on that Junkrat with his bounces, so he'll be able to get that up pretty quickly as well.
Boss actually trades himself for UTech to start that fight off, which is a definite win for Bone Zone.
And an ult coming out, and it takes down 1, 2?
2. Sal will take down 2 as D.Va, but there comes the res out of Crystallize. And it looks like
they've got
another hold for Sadistic.
Yeah. And they're slowly pushing that cart back, which, I mean, it just is losing time for Bone Zone. They just can't get to the point anymore. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this map has changed that people can now successfully hold at this midpoint gap. Normally this is a lot easier for the offensive team.
Yeah, I think this just needs to be credit to Sadistic Autistic. They're playing really well.
An ult coming out of UTech. Counter ult out of Zenyatta. The ults everywhere and just very sloppy.
But yeah, it didn't seem like there was much of a plan out of Bone Zone there. I'm still not exactly sure what they were hoping to do. Although they have come close to establishing control of this cart, but they do not have the health bar this Sadistic have. And it's just about Joe on the point, and he's getting pushed way the hell back.
Yeah, a lot of suppressive fire coming out of Bone Zone, but ultimately an unsuccessful push after multiple ults blown. I think D.Va just being a lot of the damage is just slowing any
Ooh. And that's a
real
big
movement
chance on the tree just got onto Albino Joe, because that buys so much time after the fight was already over. I mean, we're now looking at maybe 3 fights remaining for Bone Club to get to this next objective.
Yeah, and Sadistic Autistic has 3 ults available, 4 on the opposite side, and we might see another trade of ults coming up really quickly here. And everyone's just sitting.
Oh, Ball of 60 gets picked though to start this off, but so does 30 again.
Yeah,
there's
Salvo
a nice hammer
solos
down.
him.
He gets both the healers, but it might not matter. There's already 2 down for Bone Zone.
An ult coming out. Takes down no one.
That was really rough from Albino Joe.
I feel like that's the difference between a really good D.Va player and an okay D.Va player. As, I mean, look how many people fell on Sadistic Autistic. 4 fell during that ult. It didn't all necessarily die from the D.Va, but the damage and pushing people around, forcing them to run away, just caused them to take damage and go down. And they moved a lot really more in that last seconds.
Yeah, Albino Joe, ever since he's kind of switched to being a D.Va player in the last month or so, he's had some very impactful ults, whether he's getting kills or just creating big zones for his team. And I thought that was going to be a lost fight. They had lost 2 so early in that fight.
Yeah.
They weren't in a particularly good position to capitalize with the 4 remaining, but they set up good ults, and they do cap the point.
UTech ulting, keeping players alive, and taking down Thrifty. And
this fight's getting
just some
very
damage
split.
being traded.
This is just because he's really pushed off of this cart here. Bonezone needs to just collapse onto the healers, but we're kind of solo holding the cart there, but they didn't.
Crystallize goes down, had his ult up, but no one on the side of Sadistic Autistic has dropped since then. And Bonezone has collapsed back to the point. It looks like they're going to try and rush from above, drop down onto the cart. We see that BOL Sexy is there to meet them.
Splitter and 30 look like they're going on the flank. They have the 2 ults available for their team, so they should really create a lot of pressure for the 4 on their team to establish on the carts. It looks like that's what they're doing, but they are being chased around up there.
Crystallize is playing really far forward next to the cart just to provide some damage and healing. I was afraid he was going to get picked up really quickly.
Yeah. Now Courier pops the Transcendence just to stop the cart from moving. Doesn't really do a lot. And there goes Salvo clearing things out with his D.Va ult. And Jim is going to whip the hammer down. This is a ton of space for the cart to push.
Yeah, they just opened up the map a lot, surprisingly. And Bonezone just trading a lot of damage, getting a lot of distance on this push.
Yeah, they got
and no one wants to step up to the cart.
Crystallize went down before anyone else on this team did, so he didn't have a chance to pop that resurrect. Although, look at him, he's coming out of spawn right here. He's probably going to have to pop a desperation res here. And there it is. Yep,
and he does.
2. It gets 2, and it does stop the card from moving. There's still good ult from Bone Club.
Yeah, but there are 3 people down. Remaining. It would be a god play for Salvo to stop this card from pushing, and that's the first side of this map. Bonezone getting the full points.
Yep, little awkward, but a solid win.
Yeah, they look very coordinated as a team. I think just focusing damage, and we'll see what. Oh, the Ana ult.
Yep, this was the one after Albino Joe got his zone everyone out of there. 30 was able to rush forward and just really tear through that team.
And the D.Va ult actually helped propel him around the bus to be able to shoot more people, which is not something you would have expected. It almost killed him, but is there damage reduction for how much is taken with the Ana ult?
I don't believe so. I think it's just a health boost.
Okay. Because, yeah, if he went down from that ult, he would have just gotten 1 or 2 people, and that would have been it.
Correct, so, there is damage reduction from the Ana ults. Thank you, voice in the sky.
A really, really interesting play of the game. A lot of unintended kills.
I'm not excited for this Soldier 76 meta. Like, playing the games are supposed to be about, like, flashy headshots or, like, hammer down that hits, like, 2 people at the edge of its range, not I put my mouse in their general vicinity and kill for healers.
Wait, are we not playing Call of Duty anymore? Regardless, I think you're right. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Soldier, both on defense, defense and offense, as the damage is quite insane. And maybe continue to see the Ana go along with it. He got ulted twice in that game instead of the Reinhardt. They were able to make these, I think, on both ults. So we'll see what comes out of the teams. This time we see Bonezone running 2 healers, 2 tanks, and 2 damage healers. We'll see if they're able to hold a little bit more successfully than Sadistic Autistic, who had Or did they have two? I forget.
Glorious combat.
Yes, they did. They were running the Junkrat Soldier. So
Okay.
2 DPS has been the standard so far for defense.
And it's 3 tanks on offense.
Yeah, and that's not super surprising that 30 the 3 tanks, even before the patch, when teams were running the 3 tanks, which was something that Bone Zone had liked a bit more than the other teams, that was typically most effective on offensive payload maps.
Gotcha.
And it looks like Valkyra still hasn't picked a hero, and the doors have been open. No one asked
very
for a
surprising.
pause. Not sure what's going on there.
Oh, he has picked Lucio, and looks like everything's in order. I'm surprised as to how Bone Zone is deciding to try and hold this point, as they're not actually anywhere on the point, and quite separated when it comes to the team members. Oh, Utech flies over, and the fighting begins. Jim running around, swinging his giant hammer.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive Reinhardt coming out of Jim.
A teammate goes down. 30 is really low on McCree. Salvo goes down.
Though.
The point is contested, and Sexy jumps off of it.
Yeah, there's like 3 members of both teams on this point right now. This is that really awkward point when no one's really sure whether they want to contest or not. But it looks like that's going to be a hold for now out of Bone Club.
Yeah, not the same coordination out of Sadistic Autistic as we saw from Bone Zone, but a little bit more focused as they force people away from the control point.
I do want to note, Utech had a really good start on this Mercy, let his team take a lot of intelligent poking. He got the first ult for the game, the res charge. That's how 3 ults available for Bone Club. They have a huge advantage in this next fight.
Yeah, and here comes the Diva ult.
Yeah, he gets crystallized. He gets Diana.
Very important.
30 gets picked and Utech immediately pops that res. Bone Zone is very committed to holding this choke here. And they're doing something. They're going to pick out a Selva, they're going to pick out a Sexy. And it looks like Albino Joe going for the chase into the room. They get TK Thrifty. And that's going to be a hold.
That's another really good hold out of
Yeah,
Bone
and that was
Zone.
actually a really good res on Utech while I have a sec. That's one where a lot of like bad Mercy players are like, oh, it's only one person, I'm going to hold this early in the fight. Like, no, you needed 30 up, you needed that high noon, and you're going to easily be able to get 50% of that res back before another fight breaks out if you win that fight.
Yeah, a hold like that can mean a lot, and he died early enough that if he tried to wait for someone else to fall, he might not have gotten 30 back up. So you're still fighting a 5v6. So sometimes just getting that extra person up means world.
Back, guys. Heads up.
So there's
A lot of damage coming down on this choke point, and I'm not seeing a lot of push come out.
Yeah, Albino Joe's finally chasing up onto Splinter. Salvo the first one to die, and Splinter with a nice aggressive rocket barrage. Not going to pick up any kills though. But now Salvo, no, he's still dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of damaging graded. Tree goes down. But Bone Zone is very healthy. Like, everyone is almost completely full.
There's a Graviton Surge. It only hits teammate who's going to pop the Transcendence as some teammates jump in with him. They get the kill on the Thrifty Senpai. Now it's just Valkyria. Oh, Jim 30 with a clean 4K there. But there's the res out of Utech. All his teammates alive.
We might have a little bit of upset this week if this continues to go the way for the rest of the maps, as some really good holds out of Bone Zone.
Yeah, Bone Zone, they should have a big ult advantage going into this next fight. There's essentially one real team fight left here, and Salvo's going to have it ult, the tree is only 10% away. If they play it right, they should have a 3-on-2 ult advantage, with one of them being Albino Joe on the Diva, not the most impactful one on defense.
I've got you in my sights.
Yeah,
they
Thrifty
don't win the fight
rushes
with
the
ult.
point. Salvo ult
Oh,
with
that's 2
Diana.
down.
Oh, 3 down. Jim's dropping very quickly. That shield can't hold forever, and he drops. Only Albino Joe is alive.
Oh, and they
On
get Albino
point.
Joe out of the mech at 99 on the ult. That would have bought so much time, but he did not get it.
And that's gonna be a cap.
A really nice nano combo onto Salvo. Turns into a cap for Sadistic Autistic, who are not going down without a fight.
Yeah, they had 35 seconds left. So if they could have held just a little bit longer, that would have probably been the last push out of Sadistic Autistic. And now
Yeah,
they've got
would've gone
another
into-
3 minutes to move it.
Yep, they also would have gone into that like 30-second just rush the point as fast as you can phase with a huge ult advantage. Would have basically been a guaranteed win on defense.
Yeah.
A really
Yeah, a
good
lot of-
push out of Sadistic.
Yeah, and a lot of really good damage coming out. Some members from Bone Zone, they're getting healed slowly, but Splinter and 30 are dropping really low. Teammate
Yeah,
taking
Jim-
damage as well.
It's really aggressive here, and now Team 50 tosses a really weird diva ult, way too high, doesn't get anybody.
But Jim does fall, counter Diva ult,
Albino Joe pops off, and that actually gets out Furior. But there's the
and
rocket
Thrifty
barrage
drops
on the
later
flank.
too. 5 members drop on the side of Sadistic Autistic, so that's a really good hold for Bone Zone.
Yeah, that all kind of started with Jim just going crazy on the flank. Didn't know what the hell he was doing, but his team collapsed just right for him.
Yeah, a lot of damage coming forward, and we got a couple ults on both sides. Members getting really low on the side of Bone Zone. Splinter with a
nice
really good ult.
flank rocket barrage. That puts on a lot of damage now. The cart's moving forward here.
Yeah, it looks like they might be able to have this next point, which will give them even more time for another chance to tie this map with Bone Zone. Salvo playing very far forward as that next point is capped.
Yeah, really big upset about this if they were able to get that second point fairly quickly because, as we know, this third point is the hardest one to cap on Bonnie.
Bone Zone playing very scared with Albino Joe behind them. And
Yeah.
he runs out. People aren't
Yeah, that
dropping
was-
on either side, and this card continues to move forward.
That was not a good flank out of Bone Zone. They were not in position to capitalize on what Albino Joe was doing, and they gave up half of the point for free. And Albino Joe is still on that point. He's getting zoned so far back, and it's just the heal is contesting this card. Now Albino Joe goes down. Jim
Really
the
good
bolt
ult.
on this card, but it's a really fucking good one.
30 drops, but is ulted back.
There's a Graviton Surge into the Diva ult. That Diva ult from Thrifty gonna pick up 2. And this is looking like it's gonna be mostly an ace. First this go, the respawn time started. And there's the Nano onto
Soldier.
Salvo.
Yeah. And a very quick push. People need to get on this point now for Bone Zone in order to defend.
Ooh, and Tree has the rocket. Well, it doesn't do as much as it could have, but this is still looking good for Sadistic Autistic, who are keeping numbers on this card.
Yeah, the one thing that I saw that happened there, UTech went very aggressive as Mercy with the pistol, and went down, trying to defend the point. This 1-by-1 death thing will not hold out very long. And here I think the point will actually get capped,
Oh,
as Jim goes past
That-
the point.
that was bad. Jim, we'll see you before the Week 5 game start, I guess. We'll leave it at that. But there were some very good plays in the game there, but not surprised it was Tree. He had a few really big rocket barrages, played some really aggressive flanks.
Oh,
Or-
and here at the end, just clean up.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah, team support around.
It looks like Tree might have actually landed the grenade that kind of changed the
Yeah.
course of where Jim was charging there, so maybe that wasn't all on Jim.
Yeah,
Ah,
if that's the case, that's a really good play out of Tree, just keeping anyone off the point. So yeah, that's our first match, and the teams are completely even.
Yeah, and it was fairly close overall. I believe 30 seconds and a minute 30 remaining were our two scores there, which, I mean, obviously time doesn't matter here in the regular season.
Yeah.
But as a
But-
whole, the two teams can say they played about the same. And that's kind of starting to look like a trend in the Batty Overwatch League, is that everyone can play offense much better than they can play defense.
Yeah, I think defense is a lot harder, and that's the point that Blizzard has come out and said is you can lose one time on defense, and the other team just gets a huge push out of it, and that's the point. Defense is supposed to be harder, and with these most recent patches, it looks like it's a lot harder than they originally intended. However, this next game, we're going to Lijiang Tower. 3 cap points if one of the teams takes a point off the first map. This one, I think, is pretty infamous for being a giant cluster and a lot of really good plays just because of how open the maps really are.
Yeah, this would probably be my favorite map in the game if any of the teams I've ever played on were good at it. But
Low ball.
after Team Swain convincingly got 0-3 versus Team Swain EU at the LAN, that was the last straw. I'm done. King of the Hill isn't for me anymore.
Yeah, I think everyone enjoys these maps. It's just whether or not you can play them successfully, that almost doesn't matter. Everyone just enjoys the bloodbath that is Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, Lijiang's great.
I think all of the King of the Hill maps kind of have that effect because everyone's just bodying forward to the map, trying to stay on, trying to get contest points, and then get murdered.
Select your hero.
This first map, one that we're starting on here, I actually think is one of the most difficult to actually hold because of the angles of the map. It's not a perfect mirror. Both teams come in at an angle, and it makes for some really interesting team fighting dynamics.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can approach here too. You can approach from high, you can approach from low. Like there's ways you can get at the enemy team in a way they don't expect pretty consistently here on Control Tower. Which is hell if you're a spectator, but a lot of fun if you can get past that.
Yeah. One thing that did change this week too with the SBL is Sombra is enabled, and it looks like Salvo is going to be the first person picking her up.
Ooh, I meant to talk about her. I was not sure if we were going to see much of her tonight, but Salvo is the kind of person that does not surprise me as playing the first Sombra of the year.
Hey there.
Yeah, and a really interesting route coming out of Bone Zone, coming behind everyone in the middle of the map.
Yeah. 30 goes down very early, and Albino Joe very far ahead of the team. He's going to lose the mech. It's probably his life immediately after.
And he drops. And this point unlocks in 1 second, and almost... Oh, Thrifty goes down. Salvo and Crystallize are low. All of Sexy is also low.
Barely gets out of that point in time. He's actually buying a lot of time for his team because they got to kill on himself. Oh, Jim barely steps off and gives up the point. That actually would give you a really good contest on a Bone Zone, and they screwed it up.
Yeah, and 2 people drop out of Sadistic Autistic with Tree and Salvo going down, and Jim just swinging the hammer. Jim, calm down. Taking the point. He never died after bouncing around on that corner. Really good retake.
Yeah, you gotta be happy with that if you're Bone Zone. Screw up your original take, just retake the point. Sub 20%. Not bad.
Feeling much better.
Yeah, and Splinter is applying a lot of really good damage from up above, just keeping people back and off point.
Oh!
Ooh, that's a good hook.
Splinter getting a lot of good damage applied to his face. Now, Ball is Sexy with a really nice little hawk. He is zoning Bone Club back so far. And that's
another retake.
With only 1 down at the time.
And so many people are so low. This is a really far forward push out of Sadistic Autistic, but I really like this. When a team can control the point and push this far forward, this choke point is so hard to get through.
Yeah, this is something you'll see a pro play a lot. It will always push on Lijiang, especially here on Control Tower.
Thrifty being really sneaky, hiding back as Jim pulls forward.
Oh, and there's a big Graviton Surge in the window. Jim's going to try to charge out of it just to create some pressure, but I don't think that's going to matter. His team takes a lot of damage, but they somehow only lose 1 life now. Now there's 2.
Yeah,
and
you attack Thrifty,
now...
Jim, and T-Mick almost fell. And then there goes Albino Joe. The only person that really survived that was Splinter.
Yeah, it might take
really
a minute, but when
hold.
you get that Graviton Surge, you always end up going full Drowning Pool. But there are a lot of ults out of Bone Zone for this next fight. 4 to just 1 on Sadistic Autistic, so that's going to be their chance to push through here. And
A D.Va
Albano Joe
ult,
going
this
to
will
drop
pick
the
up
D.Va
some.
ult. Not going to pick up anybody, but it does clear that choke point. And TK50 actually gets killed by 30 on the Reaper. And now
Jim goes very far forward, and he's just pummeling people with that hammer. There, Anna ults him. Oh, he's just beating down Ball of Sexy. Ball of Sexy refuses. He refused to go down and then falls off the edge. Unfortunate. I think he got bounced off by Lucio. And from 95 to 24, Bone Zone retakes the point. We'll see what they can do to hold. Splinter going up to probably provide some damage and keep everyone back.
Yeah,
Jim gets
that-
pulled.
looking for a big rocket barrage because he doesn't need to get one. And Jim goes down early. That's not good for Bone Zone. And they currently only have 2 on the point. And make that 1 as Albano will get hooked. Now Tima goes down. And there's just no objective discipline out of Splinter. What the hell are you doing? You can't drop that ult. You gotta get on the point, you dumb motherfucker.
And he takes
And-
down 2, but still loses as he wasn't above the point. You can be above the
was
point and ult.
such a huge misplay out of Bone Zone. They have 4 members off of the point, just Ana and Zero Suit D.Va holding the point at 95%. That's so easy. If Sadistic Autistic gets to that point, they're going to kill those squishies and retake and win. And they won't give you a chance to cap back.
Yeah, that was a really sloppy end to what was really good play out of both teams to start that map. A lot of really good ults out of Ball of Sexy
All that
and
stuff they pumped.
or sorry, I think it was UTech. I didn't see Ball of Sexy, and then Jim with that hammer, providing a lot, but it didn't end up mattering as Sadistic Autistic just take it.
Yeah, they can feel good about that. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of the same picks to start with. Salvo starting once again as Sombra. And Albano Joe gets picked super early in this. He's actually
Same with
not
30.
playing the healer. And that's off. That should be a cap for Sadistic Autistic here. Although Bone Zone hasn't pushed through to the point, so they are content to fight this one out.
Providing a lot of damage, and no one's going down on Sadistic Autistic. He makes Splinter, Jim, the mech drops. Jim goes down. And that should be a cap. And it is. The
Yeah,
Sadistic Autistic.
Fairly clean there. And one thing of note, Albano Joe is off of D.Va for, I believe, the first time tonight playing healer, which is let UTech switch onto a tank and Jimbone take over on that D.Va.
Yeah, D.Va right now, a really big mainstay with the pseudo buffs she received. A lot of health coming forward, and then just moving faster while she's shooting makes her just so much more mobile.
Yeah, she's a big part of the 3 tank, that's what I say. Now 30 popping the high noon from real deep, looking for anything. But there's a nice transition on Valkyria. It should stop 30 from getting any kills, and it will.
Yeah, and that ult really didn't do much that I saw, at least.
So, UTech's
A lot
popping
of
the whole
contention on
hog.
screen. Was that the Sombra ult to push them back?
That was the Sombra ult, and it looks like it succeeded. I also think that Salvo might be looking to switch here. No, I stand corrected. Salvo stayed Sombra, so it wasn't just an alt-die switch.
Yeah, it was a really good pushback because it meant they could only shoot or swing some melee weapons, if anything. And so everyone retreated, buying 17 to 20% of that control point.
Oh,
Really
there's a
good ult.
big graviton surge on a tree. That's
Oh,
3K so fast. And
Taking
basically
down.
a full ace.
yeah, Lucio got taken down before he could ult, which was very big. But still held by
Yeah, and
Bone
Jim
Zone, or
tries
Sadistic
to make a
Autistic.
Jim tries to make a solo play there, but it might have been in his best interest just to die as fast as possible there to help his team get back to this final fight. They're at a big disadvantage. They will not have Jim for this fight. Pretty looking for a flanking high noon. Not going to get anything. And a defensive deep gets dropped. There is no time here. Jim is solo on this point, but his team trying to.
But he's gonna be dropping
a
soon.
lot of time.
Oh,
There's
the ult
the
gets there in
offense.
time. If any of these members drop, it is going to be a cap for Sadistic Autistic. But they've got 6 up, and the room gets cleared.
Yeah, this was a much more convincing map from Sadistic Autistic. They were the better team. They from literally the first pick until the end of that map, they were the better team, and accordingly, they get the 100-0.
Yeah, that was a really good first take. Ooh, we'll see what Thrifty's got here. This is going to be his cleanup at the end.
Yeah, this
he's
is the nail in the
93%.
coffin. If any of you have ever watched a Packers radio game, that's normally where they say something about the dagger, I believe.
He takes down 2, gets pulled, kills the person who pulled them, then goes on to kill 2 more people.
Yeah, good for TK50. Not been touching that May this week, so we don't have to see the icicle counter coming back much.
That is a really good point. That was some really solid play. A little surprising that he went untouched for as long as he did. Even getting the pull off, I expected him to die much sooner. But when you ignore Reaper and he's ulting, that's what's going to happen.
God, 3 Death Blossoms, 9 Death Blossom kills is a pretty good map out of TK Thrifty.
Yeah. Seeing as he only got 2 at the end and then went on to kill people other ways, he got 4, 3, and 2. Which 4 and 3 is amazing, and 2 you'll take any time you can get it, because
absolutely
the fight's just going to go your way.
That's a 20-0 Lijiang Tower coming out of Sadistic, who are
Oh yeah, I realize we don't always play a third map. I was kind of expecting a third map just because, but yeah, 20 points.
But we're not competitive. This is the baddie league.
So now we've got Hanamura, and I feel like this is one of the maps that a team either succeeds at on the first point or fails terribly. There's not a lot in the middle. Or sorry, the first point.
This is definitely one of my least favorite maps in the game, and like I think it's a really good map. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Like, whether I'm on offense or defense, it just feels so stressful no matter what's going on. I don't think there's any map where I'm like, no one in this game knows what they're doing more often than I feel on Hanamura.
Exactly. There's so many open or access points to that final point to try and cap. Yet for the defensive team, they've just got 2 areas that they can come out to, and it's just so close to the respawn room. I think Bone Zone, with the type of coordination that they've had in the other games, even if they haven't necessarily had the same focus, can really highlight the possibility of a win for them on this map. Because coordination sometimes on this map, when it comes to the second point, just means the world as long as you can at least get to the first point. So maybe the damage focus necessary on the first point, whereas the coordination more necessary on the second point. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I kind of see Bone Zone doing a little bit better here.
Yeah, we'll see. Curious if we're gonna see any different picks coming out here. I think that'll really change how I think it. So far, TK50's hovering the offensive May. We'll see if he sticks with it. I know he's fairly vocal about liking the May on this map, and the 2-point maps in general. He's a big fan of May, whether it's offense or not.
Yeah, so far we've got 2-2-2 out of both sides. Actually, yeah, 2-2-2 out of both sides. See what each tries to do.
So, to me, the most telling pick here, Albino Joe back on the Diva. I really like that. There was, I mean, it's a small sample size, but a much less competitive second map of Lijiang when he was not playing that Diva. It's just something that their team seems to mesh a lot better with UTech on a healer, Albino Joe on his best hero. So I'm happy they went back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
think it
Diva
means a
seems
lot
like
more.
Diva's the kind of pick that I feel like right now you could be a one-trick on and be fine.
Yeah, she's very strong right now. Even swapping her as a third tank instead of a second damage dealer on any map will still, she provides a lot of damage. Ooh, an ice ball, that's off Jim.
Jim takes a lot of damage, but not how I expected that pick to go.
Yeah. Block me off from my team. Okay, I'll kill Salvo. That sounds like a good time. Tree is off fighting on his
He's
own.
very aggressive, and his team is capitalizing on that pressure created. They've pushed into the choke, and now they're all going onto the left side. Gonna look for a push in. And Salvo rushes onto the point, but he just gets turned and killed.
Yeah, if he could have actually rammed someone, that would have been much more, because it was likely going to be a death on one of the squishies. But no such luck. I don't even think the point's contested aside from him landing on the point and then pretty much dying instantly. Tree gets beaten down by Jim's hammer. Fly a little bit higher, birdie.
Yeah, this is a really good situation for... Oh, jeez, Salvo!
Again.
You're Reinhardt, you gotta... Eventually, you gotta play tank Reinhardt, bro. And, ult economy is really fucking good out of Bone Zone right here. They're sitting on 4 and close on the remaining 2. Whereas there's only one, and now TK50 gets picked. This has just been pick city so far, out of Sadistic Autistic.
Yeah, Bone Zone has this first point. They're just so much more coordinated on. They're even focusing damage. It looks like when they're supposed to be. They're giving up this first point to defend overall and contest.
Yeah, ults have started to get close out of Sadistic Autistic, and now they're going for the full push. Salvo charges in, full tranquility to get popped to start this, but a big zoning filtered out to get 50 before he dies.
Salvo!
This is looking good out of Sadistic Autistic, but there's a Graviton Surge only going to pick Albino Joe into it, who's going to get a nice self-destruct there. Going to clear the point off and buy his team time to reject. Tree sets up the Rocket Barrage, but not going to get anybody.
No one's fallen out of Bone Zone, and 3 members have fallen for Sadistic Autistic.
Yeah, it looked like the Autistic forced their hand just a little bit too hard there, and that was a really... We were talking about zoning Diva ults earlier. That was a perfect zoning Diva ult out of Albino Joe, because it bought his team time to reestablish and then retake that point without giving up any objective time.
Yeah, we see Jim go down, so with one less tank, we might see a successful push come out of Sadistic Autistic.
Yes, this is all setting up from this right side here. They've got numbers. Jim will have an ult if he gets back in time, though. But, oh!
4 down.
Kills.
This might be the final chink in the armor for Bone Zone, as no one is near the point. Jim's here.
Rushing back. He wants to be a hero, but he's going to just give up an ult charge for free. And it looks like that's going to be a cap out of Sadistic Autistic. And there we go. It doesn't matter if you play a 3.5 good minutes of defense. You still have 6.5 to play on the second point. Fucking Hanamura, man.
Yeah, defense so hard right now. They looked so good up until that point, though. The ults, I think, having all of them, or most of them down, really hurt them for that last push. They weren't really, I guess, expecting that hard of a push to come out from Sadistic.
They couldn't afford Jim to get picked as early as he did there.
Exactly. But now we see a pretty standard defense. Everyone's kind of just
this could be really explosive. This is actually going to be we're at 6-all for Sadistic Autistic to only 3 from Bone Zone. This could be their best chance for the entire game. And there's the Graviton Surge to start. It only gets Jim, but there comes the self-destruct pops in. Does not get anyone going. Gets T-Mix.
Jim does fall. T-Mix 30 is low. Oh.
Yeah, they've got a really good zones with all those zones, and now they have established on the points. Sadistic Autistic picking off anyone that comes in. Now, you're popping the transcend just to be safe. But that was just so clean of Sadistic Autistic.
A really quick, clean cap out of Sadistic Autistic on that second point. Looked very coordinated. All of those ults really helped. There were ults sitting on Bone Zone there.
Yeah, there's just a better engage on Sadistic Autistic. And not surprised, this is Tree coming in on the flank after his team had set things up. Gets some good rocket damage to start the fight.
Experience tranquility.
Yeah, just applying damage and some really spot-on shots.
That's how you know it was a good play out of the era. When your play of the game comes immediately after you had dropped your ult.
Yeah, and Tree, a lot of damage done coming out of his team. So that's just something that we can expect of a Tree. Whatever champion he's playing, he's usually up there for damage.
Yeah, so only one map remaining. Already a pretty decisive win out of Sadistic Autistic, up 40-10 currently, with the chance to really turn this into a full blowout if they can get a defensive hold here.
We see Salvo. Looks like he was hovering the Sombra. I was excited. I want to keep seeing that champ because the alt interaction is really interesting. The AoE silence, if well placed, just completely wrecks an enemy team, so it makes for really interesting games just to watch and spectate. .30 right now looks like he's on the Widowmaker.
He's gonna switch.
You think so?
Definitely.
I don't know. It would be interesting to see Widow on this map.
That would be the
get through the doorway.
culmination of all of our 30 wants to show off memes we've had for the past year. Would be him just picking some offensive Widow on Hanamura.
Hey, I started some Widowmaker, and she's actually not as difficult to play as I really expected for the other times I was playing her. And if done correctly, can just wreck an enemy team. But on offense, doesn't seem like there's a lot of opportunity to get that line of sight that's necessary.
There's some creative ways you could play her on this map. I don't think it's bad on offense. It's just, it would be very funny. And I'm starting to think it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I think they're doing it because time started and he's on it.
30 Widowmaker, the only DPS for his team.
Oh, I was not expecting that. They've got 2 healers, 3 tanks, and a Widowmaker.
Very aggressive push coming out. Jim going super ham, but UTech is going to get picked. I'm not sure if he got stuck with that ice ball or what.
Yeah, Jim gets taken down as well. So, just not a super successful push. I feel like they need a little bit more damage to try and break through this first choke point.
Yeah, I didn't catch how UTech died there. They needed him not to die, though, because Jim was setting up to kind of be the background runner. But he gets to pick on Valkyrio, and suddenly that Widowmaker pick has justified itself, because that was a nice man advantage.
Oh.
Walk doesn't get the split, and Albino Joe rushes onto the point, which none of the Bone Zone are on.
Yeah, that
And now Bone Zone has to play
wall was
retake
really
against
painful.
pancakes.
because 3 people were on top of it, and they could get through.
How far do you think TK Thrifty's going to chase away from the point?
As far as he wants to get the kill.
He gets 30, but that might not be worth it. That's 2 notches given up. He's going to do amazing to buy some time here. But he's going to die there. This should be a trap.
No one can get over the wall. He's buying a lot of time for his team. And no one else...
Salvo on the flank is Creeper.
So they are buying time, but there's 5 people on the map. 4. And
oh my God.
people just keep dropping for Sadistic Autistic, and that, yeah.
That's 8 minutes to cap the second point here.
Yeah, that was really coordinated coming out of Bone Zone. Splinter immediately gets grabbed by Ball of Sexy, and Sexy, very sexy ult, clearing the point.
Big whole hog. But Jim put the hammer down, gonna get the kill on the Valkyrie, but Zella picks up a 2 kill on the other side of the fight. Not looking
a lot of ults traded, and
Albino Joe's gonna clear off this point though. A nice ice wall save, I believe, saved some lives there.
Yeah, it did.
So Albino Joe's only gonna buy time here.
Yeah, that barrier actually kept Crystallize alive, who was standing right in front of that ult. So a really good hold out of Sadistic Autistic, or sorry, Bone Zone.
Gonna be a lot of ults going into the next fight. 4 on 3. The playbooks are kind of open here.
Yeah. Ooh. Thrifty freezing people in, trying to murder them as It looks like 30 was trying to kill her from the other side, and no one's... Oh, Splinter's dropping. Jim's
Splinter goes
low.
down, does not get his ult off.
Yeah, looks like an unsuccessful push as they want to regroup.
Yeah, they make the right call. They don't go in there and give up more ult charge for free. They know they have a lot of ults here. They don't want to botch this fight.
Yeah, Sexy is really... Ball of Sexy is really close on his ult. And there's... Otherwise, when he gets his, there's 4 on each side.
Splinter fails to jump into the window there. And a nice ice wall is going to stop the Transcendence push briefly. But 2 kills by 30. A healer and a tank down for the defense. And now Splinter going apeshit on this back line. But no one is on the Zenyatta until now. Sorry, cast the curse there. But a lot dead for the Bone Zone. TK50 again buying time though, and that's a much bigger deal here on the second point. But
yeah, and he can't actually stay on the point, as his wall didn't save him. He was knocked away from it, and it landed wrong.
All Sexy's here. He's going to buy more time than TK50 was able to. Playing that tank. Jim only knocked down Sexy, but Salvo's there on the back line.
Salvo applied a lot of damage in that backline to keep those members either low or off. Crystallize now the only one as Tree runs onto the point to continue to contest.
Yeah.
People dying one by one, and
but it's looking like this is turning into a numbers advantage for the defense here. As
yeah,
they are
really slowly.
Back Sadistic.
30 ran away from the point really far.
Oh, Albino tosses the mech high, gets the kill on a TK50, but I don't think it matters. He's the only one on this point. He's trying to keep off on this left side. No one wants to play this point right now. But now Albino Joe goes down.
Yeah, Splinter moving really far forward to take him down. And it looks like it's almost a wipe. Oh, that's a
big one
counter
for that
bail.
TK50. That might be what holds this point here.
The only thing is, there's 5 minutes left yet. And if this continues, I feel like at some point they're going to fail on this defense.
Well, it looks like in the meantime, Bone Zone are still content to keep going for the Zerg where they have had a lot of individual number advantages. Both beats get dropped, and that's a big 3K out of the Bone Club. So this guy doesn't get pushed back. Crystallize the only one on the point, and he's going to go down.
Valkyrie Warrior gets taken down immediately as he jumps on that point. Jim wants none of that. Oh, dropped
like
his hammer in his face.
But, going to be Bone Zone, not the pop-up for Sadistic Autistic, getting the win there. And Jim gonna get the play of the game here on Reinhardt. Had a few really big calls. This might be this one right at the ends.
It is. He's just throwing down a lot of damage, hitting everyone. And here,
damn,
Valkyrie just doesn't want any.
Gets dunked.
So does that mean the teams went even tonight?
No, that'll be a 40 points for Sadistic Autistic to 20 points from the Bone Zone Club.
Oh, okay.
So, a convincing win, but not as big of a blowout as we've seen in some of our games. But Sadistic definitely still feel very happy about that.
Yeah, that ends up putting them even further into the lead with 184 and Bone Zone at 131. So if Mercy Shore can do well against April Wizards, Bone Zone will actually be in second after the standings tonight.
Alright. Well, that's going to do it for Game 1, guys. So we're going to be cutting the stream in just a moment. Switching streamers. We'll be heading on to Game 2. As we mentioned, April Wizards versus Mercy Shore. So don't touch that browser.